All right, so today I am here with my wonderful sister, Abby, and we came here today to discuss an amazing book. And this book is called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. And Abby introduced me to Charlie Mackesy on Instagram. So he makes these wonderful illustrations about these four characters. And I definitely have seen myself in all of these characters. Um, and he even talks about how there are parts of him in each of them. And they're so relatable and really get to the core of who we are as humans. And it's really beautiful and heart-wrenching at times. So
Yeah.
I'm going to let Abby start off by reading. You can talk more about the book or just get straight into the reading of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I randomly came across Charlie Mackesy on Instagram and a couple weeks ago, and I just remember sitting there and just crying, reading one illustration after the other. And I think the reason why his work hit me so hard is because it's so simple and it's these beautiful short poems paired with these just simple but beautiful illustrations that are so universal, and the
Mhm.
themes in these poems, and I call them poems, but the themes are like just hit the heart of humanity so much, and basically felt like he was reading my thoughts. um,
Totally.
so yeah, the book is really simple, and it reminds me of Winnie the Pooh.
Mm.
Um, and so it's just these short illustrations. So we're going to read some of them and talk a little bit about them. The first one I chose was, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" "Kind," said the boy. And the next one says, "What do you think success is?" asked the boy. "To love," said the bull. And I love these illustrations. Um, and I love about these two about how he flips what success is and what achievement in life looks like, and rather than it being this big vision that you have to work hard to become this, successful person and do something big and prove yourself to the world, he whittles success down to simply learning how to love and learning how to be kind.
Yeah.
um
And I
I think
think
it's
in
beautiful.
our American culture, where the mostly what we talk about as far as success goes is like, what have you accomplished, what have you done with your life, not like how have you treated others around you, and have you
Mhm.
been kind and loved other people, those that are close to you and even those like strangers and those that you don't know. And so I think it's really beautiful that he talks about how important those really are in making an impact on the world in a
Yeah.
positive way.
Yeah. And it's the hardest thing to do.
It really is. We get so up in our own mind and what's going on with our lives that we forget about everybody else has their own life that they're living. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Um, the next one I chose is, "What do you think is the biggest waste of time?" "Comparing yourself to others," said the mole. Um, Man, it just like reminds me of how it's so part of being human, how we compare ourselves to other people. And it's this never ending, like, oh, look at this other person, look what they're doing, look what they look like, look what kind of house they have, look what kind of family they have.
Mhm.
um, and how that takes away and sucks your own life. um, and kind of like rips your own life out from under you, and that's such a waste of time, um, because you're not doing what you want to do, and you're not like focusing on the things that like are important to you and that you value, but you're
Yep.
finding your value in comparing yourself to other people. And he's saying very simply, like, that's a waste of time.
Woof. Yeah. And this is like one of those that I want to I don't earmark books. I'm kind of weird about that. But might want to put a little something in here to mark it so that I can come back to this, because I think it is one of those things that's so easy for us to do as humans, like you said. And for me, it's like comparing myself to other authors, writers, entrepreneurs, whatever it is. And when I'm in the middle of that, sometimes it'll hit me like, oh, you're comparing yourself again. That's not a good thing, but it's nice to actually see it written out here, to know that I'm not alone in that. And yeah, he really makes me feel seen, especially in this particular issue.
Yeah.
Comparing myself.
Yeah, this whole book makes me feel very seen, and that
Absolutely.
I'm not alone.
Yes, yes.
The next one is with the boy and the mole still. Says one of our greatest freedoms is how we react to things. And I love this remembrance of how the only thing that we can control is ourselves and how we respond to the world and to others. And that brings in the idea of stoicism and how, no matter how crazy or chaotic the world around you may be, which speaks directly to where the whole world is right now, we have this agency and this our own space and our own freedom. I like that he uses the word freedom
Mhm.
to react and respond however we do. Like that is completely up to us, and that's such a good reminder.
Yes.
um yeah.
And we can only control ourselves. And it's an easy thing to say and be like, yeah, but then when you're in the heat of the moment or something happens, someone says something that's not very nice to you, and you feel that negativity, it's easy to be reactionary, and like, um, oh, what a terrible person that is, or like putting the blame on somebody else. But really, we can only control ourselves. We can't control what anybody else does. And
Mhm.
if we can really remind ourselves that while we're in that moment, like, and shift our minds and thinking, okay, how do I want to react? What is the energy that I want to put back out into the world? Let me meet that with kindness and love and positive energy, instead of meeting it with the same negativity.
Yeah, and remembering that, like, that's a freedom that we
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
and no one can take that freedom away from you.
Yes, that's
And
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
um all right, we are still on mine. uh
There's so
the
many good ones, how do you choose
next
just a
one.
few?
So true. The next one I chose is, isn't it odd we can only see our outsides, but nearly everything happens on the inside? And this whole book is about our insides, and like being in dialogue with ourselves and being in dialogue with the inner feelings and thoughts that we have. And it's so true that our reality is shaped by how we perceive it, which comes from our inside. And how, like, that's where the depth of life is, that's where the beginning of life is. And how, like, really spending time with yourself and within yourself, um like, brings out the richness of life.
Mhm.
um so just like a beautiful way of pointing to, hey, oh, like, yes, we can see all of this around us, and our world is an external world, but the real depth and richness of our world is inside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And I, I think you already touched on this, but like, that's what this whole book is about, is everything that's on the inside, and our emotions, and our thought processes, and how we're perceiving the world. And yeah, like you said, like the depth of our lives is like, that's what's happening on the inside. It's not skin deep. It's much deeper than that.
Hmm. Yeah, and the more in touch we can become with our insides,
Mm,
the more we're able to like release out to the outside.
totally.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. The next one is tears fall for a reason and they are your strength, not weakness.
I really hope I have mirroring on, because can you read this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I can see. um, yeah, I heard someone recently say that our tears actually have toxins in them,
Mm,
and that tears are our body's way of releasing those toxins and releasing the toxic energy that we've been holding on to inside of us. And so I love that he says, like, they're there for a reason, and that's the reason. The reason is to release,
mm,
and that to be vulnerable is to be strong.
mm.
And we we apologize so much for when we cry, and we're like,
Feels
ah,
charged.
I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm so emotional.
I think
Um,
I apologize almost every time, especially if it's with no, it's with people I'm close with. Um, it's with people I'm not close with. I thought, oh no, it's not with people I'm close with. No, that's not true. I even apologize to those people too. I don't know why I'm crying. Um, but it's really nice to hear you talk about that, and to have just recently learned about the toxins coming out with the tears, and that it's something we should do and that we should be releasing, because I am prone to tears. I love a good cry. But also I hate when I start crying in front of groups of people when I'm giving a talk or speaking about something, especially when it comes to my own stories. Because
because
it,
we feel like it makes us look weak.
yes, and it's like, oh, she can't like get her shit together. She's just crying.
Right.
and but it's really nice to hear that, like, no, that's really good, and being vulnerable is really a way for other people to feel like they have the ability to be vulnerable as well, and so you're
Mhm.
almost giving that strength to other people to use within their own lives too, if you're modeling that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It opens the space up to be it opens the space up for all the feelings,
Mm,
and not just closed off to only some feelings.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, sounds good.
Um, all right, let's see. Let's skip the one. Um, oh, let's go to the hug one. I've discovered something better than cake. No, you haven't, said the boy. I have, replied the mole. What is it? A hug. It lasts longer. I really wanted to talk about this one because of where we are in the world, and how even the act of hugging someone feels so wrong, and in many ways is really wrong right now.
Mhm.
And I've given a lot of air hugs from 6 to 12 feet away, when I see people, and it's like there's this strong desire in me to just want to hug people and want to physically connect with people.
Mhm.
And it feels crazy to not be able to do that right now. And just like the mole says, a hug lasts a long time. And we as humans need connection, and like that feeling of just comfort of the presence of another person and the
Yeah,
acknowledgement of
yep.
another person.
Which is so healing, and
Mhm.
uh, it's just amazing. Like, I don't know all the science behind touch. I feel like I learned that in school in psychology at some point.
Oh, I know all the science.
Oh, do you? Please,
When
science,
it comes to
the
touch.
science.
Just kidding.
But I really, really feel for people who have been quarantined by themselves during this time. And I thought about, so me and my husband, Austin, we also live with the housemate, Kelsey. And I've even thought about with her, like, we're her people that she interacts with. So I've made more of an effort to hug her just like to think about hugging her, because we live together. That's not something we do. Like when you see friends, you know, you hug them. And for some reason, I guess living together, it's not like you just don't think to hug each other as much. At least we don't. Maybe other people do. But I've been trying to make more of a conscious effort, because I think, oh man, like we're her only like touch that she can get. And
Yeah.
my heart really does go out to everybody who has been on their own and not receiving and giving that touch, because I know
Yeah.
how good it feels and how safe it can make someone feel, and loved and grounded. So if I could, to all of you who are by yourselves, I would give you a very big hug.
We just really have to become experts at hugging ourselves right now.
I like somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, the next one is yours.
Ooh, all right. So this, oh, I was on the wrong one. Sometimes, said the horse. Sometimes what? Asked the boy. Sometimes just getting up and carrying on is brave and magnificent. And, you know, I think that this can pertain to now times. I think this can just pertain to any time, all the time, when you're in a rough patch and you're feeling down on yourself, or things haven't panned out the way that you hoped that they would, something goes wrong. I know even for like launching my book in April, several things went wrong, and I was up late at night the night before the launch trying to get everything together. Things weren't completely falling into place the way that they should have been, and it was just I don't know, sometimes it feels easier to just lay down and be like, okay, I'm just gonna stop. I'm done. Like, this is too hard. But it is incredibly brave and magnificent to get up and to keep going. And sometimes, like, that's all that it takes. Like, even getting out of your bed in the morning, sometimes just the act of getting out of your bed, especially if you're like in a depressed spot, or you're just like having a really hard time, that can
Mhm.
be such an incredible and honorable act of getting
Right.
up, just putting one
Yeah.
foot in front of the other.
And counting that as a victory is so important,
Mhm.
because we're so hard on ourselves. Like, we're all just so hard on ourselves and have these thoughts that run through our heads daily, and these negative thoughts of just tearing ourselves down, that we haven't done enough, that we're not good
Mhm.
enough, that we're not where we're wanted to be at this point. And rather than just being so hard on ourselves, saying, you know what, like, I got out of bed today, I
Mhm.
put on my pants, I made a smoothie, and like, that's good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just learning to be gentle and kind to ourselves
Mm.
is so important. I've been learning that a lot during this time of, you know, we're running so fast and so hard and trying to do as much as we can.
Mhm.
Um, but sometimes that's just not being kind to ourselves.
Mm.
And yeah, so I love like
Mm.
counting it a victory to just get up
Yeah,
and carrying on, whatever that may look like for the
yeah,
day.
yeah,
Carrying on might be sitting outside for 4 hours and just being,
yeah,
carrying on might be reading a book one day.
absolutely. Or
Yeah,
watching 5 movies back to back.
yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
I've done that.
yeah, same, same. All right. The
Okay,
next one is also yours.
yes. So this one says, "The greatest illusion," said the mole, "is that life should be perfect." Um, and oh yeah, great. And then at the bottom it says, "My dog walked over the drawing, clearly trying to make the point," which I just thought was so beautiful, so great. And and I think like this is this is a really hard thing, and this is going back to like we're so hard on ourselves, and we think that our lives should be perfect, and we want to put that out
Mhm.
into the world and show everybody the perfect side, that everything works out in our life, whatever. And just for example, like we tried to do this video on IG Live and it just it wasn't happening. And was getting all scrambled, and I'm not super tech savvy, so I was struggling. But the
But tech
reality,
sexy.
what?
You might not be tech savvy, but you're tech sexy.
Hey. Um, yes.
I
So,
don't know.
so yeah, and there is this idea that like that we have to have this perfect life, and we look at people online or wherever, and we think that their lives are perfect, when in reality theirs are also not perfect. They run into roadblocks. They might be having some emotional personal crises, or just whatever. Like it can be something small, but putting all of that pressure on ourselves that we have to be perfect ultimately just like leads to a bit of a disaster, in my opinion. At least in my own life, it's led to
Yeah.
disaster.
Oh yeah. Back to comparing yourself to others.
Exactly.
Waste of time.
Yep.
All right. The next one is super simple and probably my favorite illustration in the entire book. I love it so much. All three of them are looking up at the moon and it just says, be curious.
Just be curious, you guys.
I just love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going after life with curiosity.
Mm,
Yeah. I love that.
love it too.
All right. The next one is yours.
Yes. So this one says, "To be honest, I often feel I have nothing interesting to say," said the fox. "Being honest is always interesting," said the horse.
So good.
And personally, I know that I don't know, I've like come to the table with other people who I think are really intelligent, have so much beautiful words to put into the world and say, or I don't know, just new and cool ideas. And I'm sitting at the table thinking, like, what do I have that's any kind of interesting to add to this
Mhm.
conversation? And I love the idea of like being honest and being vulnerable is always interesting.
Mhm.
And even this right here, right now, I don't know that we're talking about anything earth shattering, but
Yeah.
it's talking. I mean, I'm it's talking about this beautiful book, right? And like putting our own 2 cents into how we interpret it and how it works in our world. But I think there is just something so beautiful about entering conversations with honesty and being authentic to and true to yourself, and how
Mhm.
that can help other people open up and be authentic and true to themselves as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Next is you.
Is your glass half empty or half full? Asked the mole. I think I'm grateful to have a glass, said the boy. Um, this is probably my favorite ones. Uh, we hear, we've heard that so many times. Are you a glass half full person? Or are you a glass half empty person?
Mm,
And I love that the boy is like, I'm just grateful that I have a glass, and how like we it's like, are you having a good day or a bad day? And rather than answering that question saying, man, I'm just grateful that I have a day today, I'm
yeah.
just grateful that I have a life right
Yeah.
now, that I'm alive, that I have a body that can do things. And um beginning with gratefulness before
Mm,
anything else.
mm,
I That's like just such a beautiful way of illustrating that thought.
yeah. And I find too, when I am being more mindful in my day-to-day morning tasks, and if I sit down and I either verbalize or write down like 3 to 5 things I'm grateful for, it kicks my day off in onto such a good path. And starting it with such positivity and like putting that out into the world has always done me so much good, instead of being like, I'm cranky because I didn't have good sleep, so today's going to be terrible.
Mhm.
Or whatever. And like, even if I am feeling bad or I have a headache, but like turning to gratefulness can really change your day, even if it doesn't make it perfect, but it can be really a really good tool to use.
Yeah. Gratitude.
Gratitude. All
All
right.
right.
This
The
next
next one.
one is my favorite, and I absolutely want this print because he also sells prints, everybody. But it says, when the dark clouds come, keep going. And I love the beach. I love the ocean, and that's like the vibes I'm getting here. And B, I love like that dark, cloudy, moody weather. So I'm just getting all the feels from this. But also, yeah, when the dark clouds come, keep going. It's just like such a great motto to live by because again, dark clouds are always going to come. They're not you can't avoid dark clouds. Like they just happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the choice again, like how are you going to react like we were talking about earlier? Are you going to keep going or are you just going to lie down and say, okay, that's it, I'm done? And that is like that takes so much bravery, and that's how I really want to live my life. And I hope that each
Yeah.
time the clouds come in that I have enough bravery to keep going.
Yeah. And
Uh,
sometimes the going is slow, and
yeah,
sometimes the glowing is fast and easy, but
yep,
just the going
yeah,
is the magnificent part.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah.
The next one is yours.
So sometimes I want to say I love you all, said the mole, but I find it difficult. Do you? Said the boy. Yes. So I say something like, I'm glad we are all here. Okay, said the boy. I'm glad we are all here. We are so glad you are here too. Oh my gosh. That one just like, I think that one made me teary when I first read it. Um, and I like this idea of just, uh,
Mm-hmm.
or I like the idea of freely telling people how you feel about them, like that you love them, that you care for them. And I think sometimes being vulnerable and doing that can be the really difficult thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason it's so difficult is we are expecting it to be returned. And in the Four Agreements, he talks about how really we should freely give our love and freely give positivity and kind words out into the world without expecting it back, and how freeing that can really be. And I again, it's one of those things that is so hard for us. And I think as children will tell everybody that they love them, and they'll hug people, and they'll just be
After
so
meeting
vulnerable.
them for 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. And it would be great if we could all get back to that childlike love of expressing ourselves in that way. I think, maybe we've been burned a few times, but then that goes back to like, how are you going to react? And just not expecting the same thing returned to you, and that it's okay however someone responds.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And even going back to the hug, like
mm,
sometimes you don't even have words for how you feel. And
yeah,
sometimes you show it with your body,
mm,
and or you show it with one sentence, or you show it with a smile.
mhm,
And um there's a book called The Remains of the Day, and that's like the most beautiful part of the book, is that like it it gets to how like words are really hard sometimes, and expressing ourselves through words, because we are full, like we're more than just words. We're emotions and feelings and all sorts of energy, and whittling down all of that complicated, rich, like emotion and feeling into words that come out of our mouth can be overwhelming sometimes and can fall short. And
absolutely.
so, it's just a beautiful way of showing that struggle, and showing how sometimes like it's never enough to be able to express how you truly feel about someone else or
Yeah.
about life.
And so don't quote me on this. because again, I'm not exactly sure about the research and the numbers, but I think it's something like it's definitely over 50% of the way that we communicate is through body language. Um, and so I think you're right about sometimes like what we say falls short, but
Mhm.
like we express ourselves so much with our body and the way that we're like, yeah. Anyways, I find
Yeah.
that very interesting, and also it's a little bit difficult during this time when you're in your house and you can only get so much through a computer or whatever. I
Hmm.
mean, it's pretty cool that we have video. We do have that. It's not just on the phone.
And one more thing is they all allow him and give him space to express himself the way that he feels safe to express himself. And I
Yeah,
think that's really beautiful.
it really is. Okay, my last one is this. Always remember you matter, you're important, and you are loved, and you bring to this world things no one else can. And I think everybody just needs to hear
Yep. Just write that on your mirror.
that.
Always remember you matter, you're important, and you are loved. And you bring to this world things no one else can.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You're
It's
all
so good.
beautiful, you're all unique.
Hmm. All right. Very last one.
Mm.
Oh. Home isn't always a place, is it? And they're all sitting together looking up at the dark sky. And we didn't touch on it, but he talks throughout the story of how they talk about like how they're going home or they're trying to get home and they're on this journey to get home. And then in the end, they realize, oh, like it doesn't always have to be a destination. Like sometimes home is where your friends are. Sometimes like in this very moment this is home for them because they're all together looking up at the sky, and how the idea that we have to find our home, we have to find our place, we have to like go somewhere and search for it, but in the end like it's always there inside of us.
Mm.
And um yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think that's so
um
true and so beautiful. And after our fire, I think the idea of home, I put the idea of home into question for me because I lost my home, and so it's like, okay, what is home? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And it did seem that what I always came back to is like when I'm surrounded by the people that I love and that, we're sharing with each other and we're being vulnerable. And like to me, that's really what home ended up feeling and looking like
mm,
in a lot of ways.
yeah. And at the end of the book he says this is a book of friendship. This
Mm,
is a book about friendship. And I feel like it's a book about friendship with like finding friends, true friends that you can be real with and vulnerable with. But
mhm,
I also think it's about friendship with yourself
mm,
and learning how to be a friend with yourself and learning how to be kind with yourself. And then I also think it's about friendship with nature
mm,
and like paying attention to the beauty of nature and being curious about nature, and like friendship with your life and friendship with like the life around you.
yeah,
um yeah, it's a very beautiful book.
it's so
I can't
beautiful.
wait to-
My book addicted friends, please get yourself a copy of this. You will have zero regrets. In fact, you will pick this up more than once, I guarantee.
oh
And
yeah.
and you'll feel seen and understood. And I think putting that kind of work out into the world that makes other people feel seen and understood and not alone, um, is really admirable and just beautiful.
Yeah. And if our words are not convincing enough, then listen to Elizabeth Gilbert, who says, "The world that I am required to inhabit is this one, but the world that I long to inhabit is the one that Charlie Mackesy has created." If that's
And
not
Same.
But that's not enough to hook you.
I don't know what. Um, well, Abby, thank you for coming and talking
Yes,
with
thank
me about
you.
this book and getting vulnerable and being honest. And I think, yeah, the world needs more of that. So just,
Totally. Yeah, it's been wonderful. Thanks for having me.
yeah, stay addicted, my book addicted friends. And see you soon.
That's right. There ain't no rehab for books.